So the conversation we're going to have today about connection actually started for me probably 20 plus years ago, over 20 years ago, actually. And in fact, the first book that most of you, if you know of me or have heard me speak or have followed any of my stuff, you know that most of my work that I do today is focused on employee engagement, as Sarah teed it up, workplace culture, and all the rest. But my first book, which is up over here, Social Gravity, was actually written. I wrote that with my friend Joe Gerstant back in 2012 is when we published it. We started working on the book sometime around 2007, 2006. And so it predates, go clear back. And the reason we wrote that book was because Joe and I, we actually worked together in this little terrible place. It was like a terrible, terrible place to work. It was like, if you ever watch the show, oh God, what I'm not now. I'm The Office. The Office. Yeah, there it is. The Office on TV, and how terrible that was. Like, I never really could get into that show because it almost gave me sort of PTSD. It was so similar to the experience I had at this place where Joe and I worked. But we got connected together there, and we found out that we were both kind of crusaders, and we really wanted to have an impact. And so we were younger guys. We went out and started getting involved in the community, and we started a couple of nonprofits, and we were volunteering for lots of things, and we were involved in lots of places. And then one day, people started asking both of us, either together or independently, they're like, how do you know everybody? And they were like legitimately asking this question, like we had some kind of magic secret or formula or insight and how to have this network. And actually the question caught us off guard a little bit because we didn't, we didn't know everybody. That's impossible. But when we paused, we looked, we're like, wow, we do have a pretty big network of relationships. And that had become really important both to us personally and professionally. We knew a lot of people. And so we started to unpack, like, how did that happen? How did we end up knowing all these people? How did we end up with this network? And that got us really curious. And being curious guys, we started digging in, and we dug into our own experience and pulled that apart. And then we went to kind of everything we could get our hands on, books and research and everything else, to understand how relationships form. Like, how do relationships form? How do networks develop? Networks of relationships with humans. And what resulted was Social Gravity, this book. And Social Gravity is a book about how to sort of leverage the power of relationships to be successful in your life, sort of understand the role that relationships play and how to be more intentional about that. And we talk in the book about the 6 laws of social gravity, which are sort of 6 rules. If you happen to go pick this book up, I think everything in there is intensely relevant to today, with the exception of our conversation about social media, because social media has changed a bit in the last 9 years. So bear with us there. But what you're going to hear today actually is born out of that experience. I started, that first book, and my early research work was really, this is before I ever got into the work of HR or employee engagement or any of the rest, was about relationships. And what I didn't understand was that later, all of this was going to collide. Many years later, I came to realize that really the solution to employee engagement, the solution to creating a more human workplace, lies at the heart of understanding relationships and how relationships work, and understanding relationships between people and the relationship we have with work. And so we're going to unpack that today a little bit, and I'm going to share with you some of the lessons that I learned along the way, both starting clear back 20 years ago, but also how that applies today to the work we do in organizations and teams. So today's going to be very, I've tried to tune in and catch pieces of the idea collective so far. I know we've talked a lot about different pieces of connection and belonging. We've gone deep on all sorts of different things relative to wellness. My part of today is to bring you some pretty practical ideas, the how to. So, okay, we're ready. We want to go foster, build more connection and connectedness. We get it. what do we do? How does it work? And that's what we're going to get inside of.